cool. So another thing I want to ask you too, because because when it comes to telling stories about historical figures, whether they're ghosts or political figures or whatever, sometimes there is an association with a production that doesn't go down too well. I know, the most famous one is the Scottish play, right? And the myth is, if you say the name of the play, bad things will happen. In modern times, the the BBC did a production of I, Claudius, which was based on a book. And apparently, if you write a book or you do a play or a TV series about the Roman Emperor Claudius, bad things happen, right? So when it comes to telling the story about the Bell Witch, have there been any strange encounters, anything weird? Did you find yourself encountering strange happenings, like all of a sudden the the light in your living room just going off for no reason? Anything bizarre happening there?
It was something that we joked about whenever we started the production, that we were like, wouldn't it be funny if, and what the one, strangely enough, the person that we were actually concerned about was the person playing Marie Laveau, because in order to play Marie Laveau, she had to do some research about voodoo and hoodoo. And she was like, God, I don't want to accidentally conjure anything. But surprisingly, the person that had really the only interactions or just strange occurrences was the person playing the Bell Witch. Immediately after we started, it was a devised production. So whenever we started devising sessions, they would go home to their apartment and the door to their closet would open and shut randomly. And it wasn't the draft.
Dang.
Yeah, the draft is moving it. It was that it would unclick and then click back. And usually it was doing it at night whenever she was sleeping. And one thing that we had happen also frequently in the production, and it was awful because it was a very short production time, is that we were rehearsing in a black box theater that was at the bottom of a hill. And this was I want to say January, February, a time famously in North Carolina where it snows, but it doesn't that's really, or ice falls, but that's really the weather that we get. We experienced flooding in that theater 4 or 5 times. At the bottom by the door, and there was just always an unusual amount of rain, and for some reason it always happened during our rehearsal time. There was never, it wouldn't, I don't know, it was weird. Maybe that was just the weather being bad with us, and it wasn't supernatural.
I mean, you were at the bottom of the hill.
We were at the bottom of the hill, so it was normal that it would flood. It was just strange that it was that time of year and that it would only happen during our rehearsal time. And sometimes it felt like the moment that we walked out is whenever it stopped. But I think the biggest thing was that in that theater, an older theater, but one that I had not experienced this problem with after 4 years of being at that university and, doing shows there. The light grid was always very reliable, right? Sometimes you go to a theater and there's a light that's always flashing. That's a little weird. We had a light during rehearsal whenever we had work lights on that all of a sudden started flickering. And I had not ever experienced that problem before. We were like, oh, well, maybe it's just funky. And then during Q to Q, another light, only during the Bell Witch, it was a green LED, would flicker during her.
And it was always the same light, right?
It was always the same light. And it was, even whenever we experienced the work light flickering, it was in the same location of the theater. And so it was gosh, this corner of the theater is not lit well. But that was the interesting thing, is that I assumed that it had to do with I forget what they had to rewire something for a special that we had for La Llorona. And so I was like, oh, whenever La Llorona's piece starts, when the light switched to blue, that corner will still flicker. And no, it was the same light. It was blue. It would not flicker.
Right. It would stay on.
It was, yeah. Okay. And so I don't know what it was about that particular light. It was only during the Bell Witch's monologue. We only knew because those LEDs were they would switch colors. And so we knew that whenever we were transitioning from green, which was the Bell Witch color, to blue, La Llorona, we all of a sudden were oh, they were fine for this part of the show, but then The rest, like during the like the part before, it's not working. So we never managed to figure out what that was about.
But it wasn't like that bulb was like all of a sudden decided not to work. I mean, I'm assuming I'm assuming you were using the same bulb and worked pretty well because I mean I'm not an electrician, but I'm assuming like if you use a bulb for like a play, it's going to stay working for however long it takes, right? Did it confound the lighting people at all, or did they just say, "Oh, yeah, it's just the witch doing her thing,"
Yeah, we just kind of went with it. One of the things that we were a little, I think the creepiest thing that happened was that during our like that was already kind of something that we were like believing. We were like, oh, maybe we are getting a little haunted.
Yeah.
Whenever we were blocking, the actor again playing the Bell Witch would occasionally find like bruises on parts of her body, like without explanation. And we were like, well, maybe you're anemic. But she was like, no, this is like the first time that things like that have happened to me. So, at that point,
Really?
yeah. So she would get like bruises like up and down here.
And she's not, and she's not, and when you're blocking, obviously you don't have,
Yeah.
the set furnished yet.
No, and I mean, it's a very movement heavy show, but like, they weren't like, it would have been bruising on her knees, on her shins would have been normal. But finding them on forearms was unusual. So, by the time that we were putting on the show, like we were like, oh, it's just Belle. That light that's not working, it's just Belle. If we have, like a bad thing happen during the show, it's just Belle.
So well now you've piqued my curiosity here. Michelle, did the bruises go away like once production ended? Like
I think that after it was something that appeared during blocking and working, during performances, she wasn't getting bruises. So I don't know what that was about.
okay.
Because she's still performing, the actor was still performing the same show, doing the same things. But really once the show started, I don't remember her mentioning the bruises anymore if she was still, getting them.
So when did all this occur exactly? Like was it occurring like during the fall or the winter or what?
It was the rehearsal process for the show was November
Okay.
through February. The interesting thing is that we then took the show to tour. We toured it to Kentucky, and we didn't have anything strange happen during the touring production. It was a very quick turnaround. It was like 1 week of rehearsal and then like the performance that weekend.
Yeah.
But I don't remember anything unusual. And we were all like kind of getting ready for it because on our drive to Kentucky, we did cross through Adams, and it was a shame that we couldn't stop by to.
I was gonna ask you guys
stopped. Too. We were like trying to convince our driver. We were like, please, and like, no, we're doing a 6-hour drive to Kentucky. I'm not stopping.
Yeah, we're on a schedule here.
Yeah, we're on a schedule. But yeah, it was weird. I think the hauntings that we experienced, if you want to call them that, were really during rehearsal and working, and performance. Other than the light, we didn't really see anything. And on the touring, we didn't see anything.
Now, in terms of the haunting, for lack of a better word, this only occurred during the Bell Witch section, right? Because with the others like Marie Laveau, The Lady in Red, and La Llorona, it was pretty much smooth sailing, I imagine.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, we were worried about Marie just because I don't necessarily subscribe to the supernatural. Maybe not. I do
believe. I'm going to change that, Michelle.
I'm not going to do that. Especially somebody who wrote this show. Maybe I should. But I do have like a strong, I guess, spiritual belief that like if you don't understand something, maybe don't mess with it. And that was one of the things I had advised this actor to do research about voodoo. But I was like, don't practice anything. And she was like, well, baby, and I was like, don't practice anything. But yeah, we didn't experience any haunting with the other three, just Belle.
Well, I was gonna say, because I'm assuming this is the first time you're actually telling someone outside of production about this. So I was gonna say, like, because you said you're working to get this staged this year. I would say that that's a pretty good selling point, because if you think about it, it's kind of like when the Exorcist got released, a lot of people were just as interested in what was going on, during production as when the movie came out, right? I think that'd be a great selling point for you, Michelle, if you just went out and said, oh, by the way, here are a bunch of these weird things that occurred when we did our first production of it. The actress got bruises, that light kept flickering, the doors were opening and closing all by themselves. I think it's a great marketing ploy, really, and I think it kind of would work in your favor right there.
Yeah, honestly, it would be great. The one thing that I'm scared of is that we're going to be doing some of the rehearsals for this upcoming show in my apartment. So I really hope.
Don't do the Bell Witch. Don't do the Bell Witch.
Yeah, I really hope. Yes, it is a great marketing point, and I 100% would go see a show if somebody told me that it made them experience hauntings. But also, I don't want to bring any spirits into my home.
Well, Michelle, if it makes you feel any better, I give you permission to use this episode or clip this portion of the episode and use it in lieu of marketing, just so you don't have to actually go through and kind of repeat yourself. You have my permission on that one. I'll even send you the timestamps too when I do the editing. But really, all jokes aside, that does speak to the omnipotence of the Bell Witch, because over 100 years onward, I mean, she still has that effect on people, right? Some people, because I remember watching Ghost Adventures, and people would go into that cave, and I think the curator would say, if you take a rock from the cave, bad things are going to happen to you. And I remember that they showed segments where people were reading letters from from the curator and just saying, I took the rock and then my brother-in-law got a car accident. I got diagnosed with cancer, so I returned the rock. Please take the rock back, that kind of stuff. So it kind of just goes to show that this is a figure, and I would even say this is a figure out of all of the 4 figures in your play that you really don't want to tread lightly with. Did you ever get that as you were writing and producing that play?
Yeah, I mean, I would also say that there was a weight with all 4 characters that I wanted to respect their stories, and I wanted to respect the culture and society that they came from. I think that's a big burden to carry as a playwright, and sometimes also why I wanted to stick more towards, I guess, how could you say, maybe broad strokes rather than a lot of detail, just because I think it's, and with the Bell Witch too, because there's such a lore associated with her. There's so many stories that I didn't ever want to misrepresent or tell something that was a half truth. So yeah, I think there's a pressure from a playwright's perspective to tell a story that is true, but I think there's a difference also between history book true and experience true. I think with the Bell Witch, we definitely leaned more experience, that we wanted you to feel that the truth of that haunting, of that terror, I guess, that the Bell family felt. And sometimes something that you don't have to spell out so literally for people. If you capture, I think, the essence of it, that'll bleed into your interpretation of the character.
Right.